Hey, Chris, welcome to the Profit and Grit Show. How you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, I'm so happy to have you here. Not too many times I get nine-figure exit guys, so this is awesome.
It's great to be here.
So, hey, this is where I want to start. So I want to go back to when you started your first business. As I understand it, it was at 24. Can you kind of take me through the story, just the short story? What got you started at that early age?
Yeah, growing up, I wanted to be a doctor. And then I quickly realized I was really good at sales. And I always say that sales is the gateway drug to entrepreneurship. And so 24, I figured, I know everything to generate good business. Why not own it? And so at the age of 24 in 2008, I launched my first business and, had a good pipe dream that was ready to go and live.
I gotta say one thing. You mentioned about, sales being the gateway to business. A lot of people say, "Hey, I don't know sales. I'm not a good salesperson." What do you usually say to that?
Well, one, sales can be learned, or you can hire it. So it doesn't matter whether you're good at it or not. Somebody is, and so as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, your job is to figure out all the puzzle pieces and put them together.
Love it. So you're okay then if it's an entrepreneur, and they say, "Hey, that's just not my gig." You're probably going to come back with, "Well, that's okay. Hire someone that can do that function for you."
That's right.
Got it. Okay, cool. I want to go back. So you sold Solgen to, if my data is accurate, 233 million. It was in 5 years you did it. But prior to that, you actually had a bankruptcy, and I want to go back to that period of the bankruptcy. What are some red flags that you saw that maybe you missed, or maybe you did see them and you ignored them? Were there some things that popped up before you got into Solgen?
I mean, there was a lot of red flags in my first business. One, I was just completely self-deceived from the standpoint of I didn't look at everything macroeconomically that was going on. I mean, I launched this thing at the end of 2008. Literally, the stock market had been crashing that year, and I was had the blinders on and was full bore, like ready to go. So one was that. Two, I mean, there was a lot of things that I just didn't know. I didn't ask for help from a lot of people that had great experience, just to try to figure out everything on my own, scaled too fast, too quick, without really any good handle on the numbers or really what I was doing. I was suffering from your typical small entrepreneur mindset, bank account accounting. If there was money in the bank, then you could spend it, that type of thing. And so, yeah, I just made a lot of mistakes.
So on that note of like your typical business owner entrepreneur that's kind of doing bank account accounting, how do you recommend, if someone is kind of at the smaller level, what should they be doing to set up structure maybe for growing? Is there anything that stands out now that you've?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One is you shouldn't build a business to compete, right? Competition is like the number one downfall for most business owners. And the reason I say that is most guys look at what other people are doing and they try to mimic it. It's the worst thing that you could do. Most business owners don't know what they're doing. And so trying to mimic them from the outside looking in is just a terrible idea. So one, make decisions based off of your numbers, not somebody else's. So for me, I'm a big believer in like being one of the highest priced in the marketplace. And so with that is understanding there's some basic terminologies that you have to understand as a business owner in order to scale. One is your unit economics, which means like, what is my average cost for an average product that I sell? What is my core offer that I bring in the marketplace? And what does that look like from a revenue standpoint for me? Two is, what is the gross profit from a unit economic standpoint on that particular product? So how much cost of goods? What is the direct labor cost? What do I get after I go and deliver that product to pay the rest of my bills, right? And so I'm a big believer that you should be operating at a 60% gross margin. And, most guys operate 25, 30, 35, 40% gross margin. And that is the reason for most failures. They don't have enough money to be able to operate their business. And so once you understand what your gross margin is understanding now that so say I have a $20,000 product and I have a 60% gross margin. That means my unit economics tell me I have $12,000 in what's called attribution margin. It's attributed towards to pay everything below the line that's a fixed cost. And so understanding how many of those $12,000 gross margin deals do I need to break even? And break even is measured against your fixed costs. So that's your salary, partner's salary, building costs, anything you have to pay for, regardless of whether you have 0 sales or 100 sales. And then understanding, so how many units? So if I get $12,000 from every deal to go and use towards fixed costs, and my fixed cost is $48,000 a month, that means I need to sell 4 deals to break even every single month. And then every deal above that, I net $12,000 a deal. And so, a lot of people think that like net profit is going to be about the same. No, it's all about like how much am I crushing my break even. And so like if you can understand those numbers and get outside of the bank account, right? Like the bank account should not determine whether or not you do something. It should be, am I running a profitable business? Not because there's a lot of things that you probably don't understand from a cash flow standpoint, how much deposits you're sitting on, those type of things. And so just understanding that those things alone right there, that'll help you in the scalability of your business.
Hey, Chris, how often do you see companies actually hitting that 60% gross profit margin? Because typically is what I'll see, if I can get a client above 50+%, I'm usually feeling pretty good. I mean, obviously more north is better. What's been your experience at that 60% number?
I mean, rarely are people coming in at 60% when they start working with me, but I've been able to get most companies to that, and some even above that, depending on what their cost of goods structure is.
In terms of levers, are you pushing more for more revenue on that typically, or are you finding spots in their COGS that they can reduce it to get that number, to get the gross profit up? Or
I mean, the old adage is it's way easier to earn more than to save more, right? So it's typically charging more is the way that you're going to increase that lever. But it's a big misnomer that you can just charge more, right? Like I'm an advocate of charge more and improve your offer, right? And so what we call offer stacking and creating something that completely distinguishes you from the rest of the marketplace.
Got it. Okay. I could talk with you about this all day, but I got to go to the next question. You mentioned about ego as being one of the reasons that your company, you drove your company to the ground because of ego. What did that actually look like on a day-to-day basis? Like when you say like, ego really played a role in kind of driving the company to the ground, what day-to-day did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, real easy. Growing up, I grew up in my dad was a school teacher. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And like, I didn't need a lot of like material things to be able to live. And that's never really been me. And so like example, I went to go buy a new car, and one of my regional managers was like, dude, you got to buy this car because like, that's a CEO car. It was like a Mercedes CLS 500. And like, I didn't need a Mercedes CLS 500, nor had I earned a Mercedes CLS 500. Right. Like, and so, I changed even like just my standards of like who I was to play into this ego of like, oh, what would a CEO do, or what would a successful person, right? I think a lot of times as business owners, we're trying to be successful before we actually are, or we're trying to prove to the world that we have been successful, right? And so, which leads me to like one of my favorite things that I tell guys is just like, quit robbing the business of growth capital to prove to the world, to prove to people that don't like you that you are successful. And that was me, driving the car, nice office space, just looking good to other people was high on my priority list during that time.
Yeah. Hard not to fall into that, but it's cool that you kind of sat back and realized it.
Yeah, and because of that, when we launched Solgen, we operated out of my garage for the first 2.5 years. Wow. And first $75 million of revenue. So
wow, that's crazy. And that brings up my next question as we go into the next segment. What made you decide to go into Solgen as opposed to like, a lot of times you get hit with a bankruptcy, you get hit with going through a failure. You just kind of go, well, I'll go grab a W-2 and move on. Like what made you decide to try again as opposed to walking away?
So Solgen wasn't like my immediate rebound from bankruptcy. Okay. So I was bankrupt in January 2011, and immediately got into this. So I was in the home security, home automation space, and immediately launched another business in that same space because I knew a lot of the mistakes that I had made and everything like that. But after running that business for a year and a half, quickly realized, man, there is a lot that I need to learn. I just don't know how to scale properly. So I micromanaged that business, was making enough for me to live off of, and my business partner at the time to live off of. But we did not know how to like properly scale. And during that time, I was trying all different types of things, starting different businesses, just kind of banging my head against the wall of like, man, I don't know what the freak I'm doing. And so eventually what I did, actually went back to work for somebody else with the intentionality to study exactly how these guys were growing. And I actually spent 4.5 years between 2012 and 2016 working for 3 different companies, particularly just with the intention to study the CEOs, seeing how they were building their culture, seeing how they were building their strategy. And so I call it my paid education. And that's when I really learned how to grow and build, and then simultaneously started investing in my own personal education with masterminds and coaches and different things like that. And so that's really where things started to turn. It wasn't just like, hey, I learned from my bankruptcy and go. I learned a lot from that, but it was really getting in the room with mentors that had gone and grown. Like one of my greatest mentors that I had the opportunity to work for, he had 2 different multi-billion dollar IPOs. And so just being a part of that, like during the 4.5 years I worked, the 2 different businesses, I experienced IPOs and just saw massive growth. I was a vice president of one of the businesses, and I was over growth, and so yeah, it was going through that. Sometimes it's great, like it's okay to admit, like, hey, I don't know what the freak I'm doing. I need to learn. I need help. And, sometimes that route is going and working for somebody else for a time as an entrepreneur. And that was a really big, like, damage, kick me in the junk of the ego, to say like, hey, look, I'm no longer the man. I got to answer to somebody else for a short time.
Yeah, big time. I also wonder though, getting around that one mentor of yours that had, $2 billion IPOs, did that kind of open your mind to like what's possible? Like, because I
100%.
imagine being around that, that must have been huge.
And I would say not only that, but the many other guys. I'm a big believer paying to be in a room of people that are doing way bigger things than you are, because that most entrepreneurs struggle just with like what their capacity could potentially be, right? And for me, the biggest thing was like getting in a room, seeing a guy who looks not very smart that's doing big things and realizing, holy crap, if that guy can do it, I sure as heck can do it,
Chris, not all of us can look like you, man.
Well, I don't know about I'm not saying, I'm just saying,
cheesy.
like, oh my gosh, like, I mean, I'm in some rooms with just like, dude, how in the world is that guy doing this? Like, I think that is the secret to life, is get around dumb people that are being successful.
No, I get it. Hey, you mentioned, like you said, hey, I'm going to go on a paid education. I want to learn how to scale. Do you recall like what were like 1 or 2 things as you were learning how to scale by working for others that just jumped out as, oh my gosh, I didn't do this, or, oh, I didn't think about this?
Yeah, one would be transparency, like the way that Todd ran his organization with transparency. One, there was no like special pay scales or anything like that. Like if you made a certain amount of money, everybody knew exactly what you made and the justification of why you made it. Like that was huge for me. He was very open about his profitability. There was this experience where the '08 crash where they were not going to be able to. So in this line of work, they have what's called a back end like commission structure. There's like one big chunk paid once a year. And there wasn't going to be enough money to be able to pay for it. And he actually so he had a 3,000 sales rep organization. Wow. And he went to those and he said, look, we're in a position where we're not going to be able to pay this. He said, we have 2 choices. One, we can like attempt to pay it and then close our doors, or 2, you guys have all have the opportunity to invest in the business and make it happen. And like that right there was like such a lesson on transparency of like getting the buy-in of your people and like the rally cry of like people aren't stupid, right? People know when things aren't good. And if you can like enlist them in the struggle, enlist them into that, and like be transparent with like the good, the bad, the ugly, you're going to get crazy buy-in. And, there was a lot of people that were made multimillionaires. One of my best friends worked for that. He made, as an employee, $35 million
Wow.
through some of these programs. And so that was like huge, just the transparency aspect. And then the pricing and pay structure. So they were always the most expensive and paid some of the least in the marketplace. Yet the least was from a commissions percentage standpoint, but those salespeople actually made more because they were selling more because of the culture that was created, the different competitive atmosphere, the buy-in. There were so many. So like just the level of culture and transparency that was created by Todd was something that I always tried to emulate in my business.
Wow. One thing I love hearing about that too is the guy that made $35 million. A lot of times you'll have businesses scared to someone to make that much, and they don't really kind of see the big picture of, well, if he's making $35 million, that's got to mean the company's making a ton of money on top of that.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, if you're afraid to let your people know that you're making a lot of money, you got the wrong people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. That's strong. Hey, I want to talk about your Solgen's business model and just your frameworks in general. I've heard you talk about the 8 pillars of growth. Can you talk to me about one or two of the pillars that you felt had a big impact on Solgen?
Yeah, so one would be design. So the design pillar, which is like actually building out your business before you go and execute. Most guys are just running by the seat of their pants, reactionary. They were good at being a technician, so they just naturally fell into running their own business, and they like expand when absolutely necessary. So the day I started Solgen, everything was designed from a 5-year aspect, like, hey, this is what we're going to go and grow. And so I do something what we call the next level plan, which is a 5-year roadmap to like exactly what you're building over the next 5 years. So you start with the end in mind, and you build it backwards from a total organization standpoint, what it's going to take from a revenue generated, everything like that. So that when you go and you start hiring, because most guys, like, for example, say you have budgeted 10% to your sales of your product. If people don't start with a 5-year roadmap of what their total sales organization is going to look like, they're going to start by just compensating their sales reps 10% today. And then when they go to grow and they need levels of management and training and everything else, there's not going to have anything left in the budget to be able to go and grow with. And so what happens is they start hiring these other people, and their bottom line from a percentage standpoint just shrinks. So instead of being what my target's always a 25% net, instead of being a 25% net, they're going to be, 5-10%, whatever it is, because they didn't build this company from a forward-thinking 5-year roadmap design aspect. And so designing everything from the ground up, like when I operated out of my garage, our 5-year roadmap was we were going to have 500 employees doing $100 million a year. And we had it exactly built out of what that looks like. So when we bring somebody in, we're like, hey, look, this is where we're building to in the next 5 years. This is where you're coming in at. These are the opportunities to be able to scale up and grow within the business if you so want to or desire to. That's what, and you take the bull by the horns and you develop as a leader and everything else. This is so one, it presents opportunity when you have a proper design, and that is the backbone to a vision. And so one of the key things in recruiting and developing a business is the vision of the leader, and the vision of the leader is only as clear as the design that is created. And so getting just really honed in on what that exactly looks like, which ties into, so that's one of our pillars. And then the other pillar that I always love focusing on is, so I mean, all 8 are fantastic, but the offer, right? Like, what is my core offer? How much am I charging? What am I paying my people, top to bottom? How does this all pencil out? And that really ties into the design very well, from a standpoint of starting with your priorities correct. So one of my most controversial takes that people, when they first hear, they're like, wait, what? I say, most businesses are ran customer first, employee second, business third, and I invert that. So where it's actually company first, employee team second, and customer third. And the reason is the only way that you can properly take care of your customers if you're highly uberly profitable, because when you're profitable, you can afford to you're going to stay in business, you're going to afford to be able to take care of your team really well and pay them in the proper way and everything else, which in turn allows your team to be able to take care of your customers. Because when I failed in my first business, I put the customer first, so I charged the least. And then I said, oh, employees, we need to pay them more. So I paid, and then margin was only here. And so ultimately there was nothing left over for the business. So what did that ended up doing? When the customer called in, nobody answered, right? Like there was nobody to be able to service their account or anything else. And so if you want to screw your customer, put them first.
Yeah, that's great. That makes a lot of sense. When you talk about the company scaled so fast, I think you went to like 1,100 employees in 5 years. How do you keep culture together when you're growing that fast?
I mean, very much by design. You've got to have a lot of leaders that buy into the mission and the vision and the direction of the business, right? And two, that has got to be the foundation in what you hire. Right. So your core values. So if we go Solgen, we had 6 core values: synergy, outside the box thinking, love of family, generosity, excellence, and no excuses. Those are my core values. And every single person is being measured on those initially when they come in the door to be able to get in the door. And then later that they're being analyzed that on a quarterly basis. Are you living the core values? Are you the right person to be in the room? And so, somebody could be the top producing sales rep, but a cancer to our culture, and we're going to get rid of them. And so, keeping people aligned there, and there's, that's a very loaded question. How do you keep? I could go on and on and on of how we recognize through emails and awards and created a competitive atmosphere and always dealt with the hard conversations and focused on the 5 dysfunctions of a team of always building trust through leadership development programs and creating. So one of the things that I would say that separates me more than most is I understand that compensation is taking care of the whole human, physically, economically, with their associations and their spirituality. So P's or ASAP, right? Those are, when you invest in those 4 things in someone, they will bleed for you. And because most guys are coming in thinking that they're competing on pay or whatnot, that's the same mentality as competing for a customer on price. You're never going to win that game. And so, Walmart and everyone else, but they're selling butt cracks and whatever. So for me, it's how do I help somebody get better physical shape, get their diet dialed in, help them lose weight, help them really start taking care of the thing that God gave them? How do I teach them to be smart with their paycheck? How do I teach them how to invest? How do I get them into their first real estate property? How do I do, right? So we do Financial Fridays, which anybody could come in and I would teach how to invest in the stock market or different things like that. More than just, hey, go and negotiate a higher pay. No, be smarter with what you're earning right now. How do I be a better father, a better mother, a better sister, a better contributor to society? How do I participate in company give back incentives in which we're going and we're buying meals for families and actively participating in service projects? How do I help people become better believers in a higher power? And for me, it's Christianity. For others, it could be something different. But I do all the things that most people would probably get sued for from an HR standpoint. But the thing that's a reality is you only get sued if your culture sucks.
Right. Definitely risk is higher if your culture sucks, for sure. Yeah, that's a good point. So just kind of shifting gears here, I know you talked about the ASEP framework, which I believe aligns with spirituality and physical health. What exactly is that? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I actually I've flipped it. It's PEAS. It's the same thing.
Okay.
But it's the same four letters. It's Physical Economic Association of Spirituality.
Okay.
And so when we focus on those things and like help people live a fulfilling life that's across the whole board, people will bleed for you. They will come to you in those moments that are actually critical. I actually had multiple employees come to me in very critical situations. I had one that, he was ready to kill himself.
Wow.
And he called me and I still remember I was in the Arizona airport and pick up his call. And he's like, dude, he's like, you're the only one I knew I could go to. And, this is at a point where I had 600 employees and, this guy was, just a normal employee that I'd shown love and reached out to. But, like for me, like, that's it. That's like the epitome of entrepreneurship is like when you hit that level, when they're there for more than just a paycheck.
Wow. That's a pretty heavy story. And you actually interacted with them or helped them and talked
Yeah,
through it?
man.
Wow.
Talked him off it. So
Wow.
he
That's
got him out of
deep.
the situation, spent 20, 30 minutes with him on the phone, and he's still with us today. So praise God.
What a cool story. That's awesome. One thing I want to, before we wrap up this section, so you had the bankruptcy, then you went other places to learn. You mentioned working out of your garage. I think you said up to 75 million as Solgen, if I heard you correctly.
Yep.
Was there a part of you that was kind of still thinking small because of the bankruptcy as you went into Solgen? And did you have to shake that off? Like, I mean, because I imagine you had that experience.
It's interesting we went from 16 million first year to 32, 34, 89, then 233 million.
Wow.
Right. And so like the growth was like fantastic. The crazy thing is we did that all without debt. Like
Wow.
and frankly, we did it without debt because of my bankruptcy, because of my fear of doing those things. And frankly, I think debt is a fantastic vehicle but it requires confidence. And that where my confidence had been shaken, we did not access debt. And frankly, had we accessed debt sooner, we would have been able to scale even faster than what we did, which is just wild to think about.
That is crazy. So you were completely cash, completely profitable, no debt on your balance sheet. That's a pretty crazy story in 5 years.
Yeah.
That's wild. What is Solgen do exactly? Who were you serving?
So we did solar home installations, so residential installations, and also roofing.
Wow.
Yeah. So
what a great business. And then at what point do you go? When's the right time to exit? Basically, because for you 5 years, that's a pretty short time frame for a business. What made you decide to go? Yeah, this is time.
We had always built it like design is like knowing what outcome that you want.
Okay.
And our 5-year roadmap was always to sell to private equity. And so like from day one, I was building everything with the intentionality to be able to do that. And so it was just going, sticking to the plan and but again, this wasn't my first rodeo. Prior to that, like I couldn't say that I built with the same level of intentionality, but I knew going into this one that from everything I learned, I'm like, all right, I am coming and I am like, everything was on purpose from day one forward.
Was it a 5-year plan to exit or did it just happen to work out that way?
No, it was a 5-year plan to exit.
That's crazy. Wow. Really cool. That's amazing. I can only imagine the multiple and the EBITDA on that baby.
Yeah, it was great. We always operated at anywhere from 23 to 25% net margin. So
wow, that's good. That's a good net margin.
You can run the numbers.
Yeah, my benchmark is generally around 20. I mean, obviously if you get north of 20, but I like that line of 20. So the fact that you guys were above that. And honestly, roofing and solar, I know it changes depending on the economic climate, but that's a tough world. That can be a very
tough world. The standard solar installer operates at a 6% net margin.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's crazy.
And so, I'm a big believer, again, being in the highest price in the marketplace, and having distinguishing features that aren't just your traditional, you go wham bam, thank you, man.
What's an example of, to you, like in that space of distinguishing features?
Well, one is, so most people try to sell with price, right? I sell with better skilled salespeople. And so one is having a trained sales force is absolutely imperative, and investing a ton in that force to be able to go and be distinguishing. The second thing is offering, like, so one of the examples I always give to my community is like, look, if you're operating 10% net margin on a $100 product, your average product's $100, and you're averaging 10% net margin at the end of the day. If you go and you charge 105 and you don't change your offer whatsoever, you only added 5% to the customer and 50% to your net margin, right? And so, like, just understanding that $1 to you is worth a whole lot more than $1 to the customer. That is like key step number one. Understand that. Step number two is, if that is the case, then how can I take a little bit of that and give it to the customer and make it a distinguished experience? So if I'm at $100 and I go to 110, so I increase the customer's product by 10%, and my bottom line right now is now 100% increased, right? What if I took two of those additional $10, and I added it to the experience somehow? Like I created some sort of like handwritten note structure, or did something that made this like, wow, memorable from an experiential standpoint. Now I increased my profit margin by 80% by improving the customer experience and only charging the customer 10% more. And so, like, that's the mentality that I go in. And so I'm always looking for ways that I can improve the experience. What kind of package, what kind of gift, what kind of little extra can I do? How can I improve the brand? What is a little product that only has like maybe a 10% COGS that I can just throw in for free as a little add-on? So like, we would do things to like help improve the efficiency of their HVAC system, maybe give them like package of LED light bulbs. We'd come in, we'd seal their HVAC system up, do different type of things, to all these things that we could just include, but then charge $20,000 more than the rest of the marketplace. And so, so that's like step number one: improve the customer experience. Be like just a completely luxury Louis Vuitton type offer, and then train the heck out of your sales force. So like, when a customer, I'll give you an example of one thing that I train my salespeople. When a customer says, "Hey, why are you $10,000 more than Joe Blow solar company down the street?" We will ask them a question like this. We'll say, "Hey, Mr. Customer, why is it important to you that we're profitable?" And I guarantee that customer has never been asked that question ever in their life. Okay. And then they'll be like, "Oh, well, I don't know. Well, I guess if you're profitable, you're going to be able to like take care of me." Like, yeah, and so like, that's an example of like training your sales force at a completely different level than just like, hey, high pressure, those type of things. And so those are a few examples of pricing stuff.
That brings back memories. I used to manage a sales team, and I'll never forget, I wanted my team to end up with a $25 an hour net margin. And they used to always come back with these deals, and they were like 22 or 23. And they'd say to me, "Hey, a couple bucks is no big deal. Why are you complaining?" And I'd say, "Dude, those $3, $2 are nothing to our client." But, they were literally hundreds of thousands of dollars because we were doing so many deals. So I revised their incentive plan so it made sense for them, equitable sense for them, to get to that 25. After I did that, I think we had like maybe out of 20 deals a month, 30 deals a month, we had maybe like one every 6 months that was under $25. And it's just, and part of it was training, but part of it was the right compensation too.
Yeah, no, that's great. The other, that brings me to one of my other sales principles is we don't negotiate. Like, our price is our price. And so we, instead of dropping price, my salespeople have to just learn how to sell it better. And so, I think that's where a lot of business owners just screw up is they're like, hey, you can give 10% discount or this. Like, no, heck no. Why would I put that in the hands of a salesperson?
Yeah, I mean, it incents them basically to go. First thing they're saying out of their mouth is, "I can give you a 10% discount,"
right.
Without even getting into the sales process. Okay, that's good stuff. I got just a couple more things I want to talk with you. I do want to talk about Next Level Pros. So, what are you doing now, and who are you helping?
Yeah, so now I work in the blue collar space. We run a community. We have a few hundred members in the community, and where we coach one-on-one. We host 2-day workshops. I have a 23,000 square foot headquarters training facility where people come in, fly in from all over the world. I got people out of the UK and Australia and really everywhere that come in, and we do real in-depth training on these 8 pillars for growth, on the operating system that we call God mode. And so really helping these guys design and build their businesses from a very strategic standpoint. And so that's the reason I do that. I tried retirement for 6 weeks, and it was the worst 6 weeks, most depressing 6 weeks of my life. And realized like, hey, what brings me the most happiness and joy? And ultimately, it's developing people. And if I I honestly believe that I can change the world faster through influence entrepreneurs than I can building my own business, because this allows me to literally impact hundreds, if not thousands, of different businesses who in turn have hundreds, if not thousands, of employees all at the same time, which really is what the thing that pushes and motivates me and gets me out of bed in the morning. And so we've been doing this for a couple of years. It started off as a podcast, and then I was doing one-off experiential things and workshops. And eventually I'm like, man, let's build a freaking community and build this thing. And so, we focus on the trades and home services. We also have a little bit of a medical division. But outside of that, man, it's what drives and inspires me every day.
So this is geared towards this podcast for a blue collar community. Is there any is it just any home service, or is there any particular kinds that are a better fit? Any certain sizes?
I mean, our target market is anyone between $1 million to $20 million, okay, right? And we do have people that are above that. I have companies in our community that are doing $100 million a year, but that 1 to 20 million is usually where most of the issues that we're solving for are right in that revenue range. And so, but this is all different services, anything from the trades, HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, to roofing and windows and landscaping and, window washing. All of it is very applicable.
What's the common theme that you see? Because it sounds like you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners. What do you say is the most common thing they bring to you as far as the problem they're hitting?
I mean, most guys are wearing too many hats and they're stuck working in the business rather than on the business. And so that's one of the first things that we typically identify, the key man syndrome, right? Like if they got hit by a bus tomorrow, what would happen to their business? And so, I mean, there's companies that are doing 15, 20 million that are suffering from this, right? And so, and even higher than that. And so it's like, how do we remove you as the key man and help design the business? Because ultimately, as entrepreneurs, we get paid for design, not for the work ethic that we have. Because there is hard work going on inside your business that pays a whole lot less, right? Like guys swinging a hammer on a roof or whatnot, they're going to make $20 an hour. Like hard work is not what pays. Design is what pays. And so we help guys design something that is going to be able to operate with or without them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, so want to just talk a little bit about your legacy. So you've got 5 kids, you got 23 acres, you got a playbook. What's your legacy, man? Like where do you see yourself going?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's, I want to leave my fingerprint on the world through entrepreneurs. I honestly believe the fastest way to change the world is through entrepreneurs, because like more than government, more than sports or influencer or anything else, right? Like as entrepreneurs, we have the ability to, like, we entice people in with a paycheck, but then we have the ability to totally transform their lives. And ultimately, that is what I'm trying to teach my kids. What I'm trying to portray is like, I want to be known as the guy that changed the world through entrepreneurs in more than a financial aspect, and did it in the right way where, man, people became closer to God had better families, were better contributors to society, made a ton of profit, but did incredible good with that profit.
Nice. Wow. Okay, I want to finish with this last one. What should entrepreneurs be doing to future-proof their shop? Like, what stands out for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, we all know AI is changing the game, right? And we're in the 1990s of the internet, right? Like the late
Right.
90s. Everybody knows that AI exists, knows that the internet exists, right? Everybody knows that you can use email and like a little bit of search, and eBay is just coming out, and chat rooms, right? Like everybody knows that those things, but it's just like, but how? How do I actually change my business through this little internet thing? And that's where we're at with AI. And so one is you can't just replace Google with ChatGPT. That's not AI. Okay. That is a form of AI, but like the lowest form of AI. So where we position ourselves in the marketplace is like blue collar guys know they need AI. There are AI tools that exist in the marketplace, but nobody is actually helping in the integration and bridging of it. And so that's where we come in is we help operate as like a chief artificial intelligence officer of your business and help you identify the ways that you need to go and start implementing and what tools are the proper ones to be able to go and apply. Because ultimately, I mean, 10 years from now, the world's going to look a whole lot different. We're going to have, you're going to have an autonomous barber shop that's going to be cutting your hair on the way to work. You're going to have like all kinds of things going on. Blue collar is kind of like the last frontier of like the last thing that's going to be replaced by the robots. And so we have to position ourselves to create efficiencies across everything else besides that direct labor aspect that's installing the toilet, that's checking that will be one of the last things to do. But like from a customer service and lead qualification and follow-up system and the way that your CRM integrates with your lead sources and everything else, it's vastly imperative that we start adopting AI because somebody else is, and they're going to be taken over quick.
What are you seeing right now in terms of, and I know this practically changes overnight. Like, how do you feel about like AI CSRs in terms of like answering the phone? I mean,
Big fan.
Are you a big fan? What
Big fan.
what would you say are the biggest things a home service business should be looking at in terms of AI help?
Yeah, so AI voice absolutely is a route that you need to go. We've got a couple different partners in that space that we've vetted out that do really well with the blue collar space. That the way that you got to be looking at it is, sure, you can have an all-star CSR that's going to be able to outperform an AI voice, but does your standard training get everybody else to that level? And the reality is no. So an AI voice is going to be able to outperform your standard training. They may not be able to outperform your best person, but ultimately, what the world of AI is going to look like is you're going to have like one person managing multiple AI agents that's constantly training them and developing them and getting them to their level of performance. So yeah, we see in that a lot. There's the follow-up systems that are taking place. The chat bots are huge. The way that we're doing analysis and strategy and financial deep dives and reporting and replacing bookkeeping and everything else. Like there's a lot of that. I'm a big fan of like so I record everything that I say or do throughout every 16 hours a day, and I'm like training a large language model that automatically sends emails on my behalf, reports to my assistant on decisions that are made throughout the day, creates SOPs and to-do lists and everything else. Like, man, there are so many cool ways.
What are you using to record all day? It's not limitless, is it?
No, so I use it's called Plod Note. I'm wearing it right
Oh,
here.
Plod Note. Okay.
Yeah, wearing
You
it here
run
on my
that all
wrist.
day long?
I wear it 16 hours a day.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know it ran that long on battery.
Yep.
That's cool. I use this one that's called Limitless, and it's kind of interesting. It, like you said, it literally follows you wherever you take it. And then at the end of the next day, it summarizes like your to-dos or anything you've said in terms of actions. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, it's a crazy world we live in right now.
Okay, hey man, that was awesome. A lot of really good stuff. I think my big takeaways, there are probably like 50 of them, but definitely the ego part I think stood out to me because I know I've had bouts of that and I hear that a lot. So that's a big one. I think the fact that you worked out of your garage up to 75 million is pretty crazy. That stands out. Your links, go nextlevelpros.com is where folks should go if they want some help and figure out your eight-figure method or 8-step method, excuse me. And then you're on LinkedIn under Chris Lee, of course. Your Instagram is under Chris Lee QB, I believe is the handle name. Right. If people wanted to reach out to you, are those the best places, or is there
Instagram else? DM me as long as you don't sound like a bot. I'm going to be responding. So,
okay, man. Hey, thank you so much. Can't thank you enough for your time, and it's great that you're doing good for people.
Appreciate it.
Welcome to Profit and Grit. It's profit and grit, not luck and a wish. From the wrench to the spreadsheet, we're stacking our chips. Slow season hits, man, we tighten the ship. It's the